Hello everyone, welcome to UG Academy. Today we are going to talk more about arrays, multi-dimensional arrays and string. So, n-dimensional array in C++ is defined here. You first write the data types, and then write the array length, and then define the size of each dimension. An n-dimensional array in C++ will be stored continuously within the computer's memory, like this. So, for example, if this is a three-dimensional array, A, then A00 will be stored here, A001 will be stored here, and then it goes on, okay? So although they are multi-dimensional, it is actually stored within a linear sequence within the memory. So let's have an example. There are several ways to define a multi-dimensional array. The most straightforward way is going to use an initializer list, which goes like this. Integer x, 2, 4 means that we define a two-dimensional array with the first dimension having 2 rows and then the second dimension having 4 columns. Using an initializer list, we can easily define this. So this is the first row, this is the second row, and then in each row there are 4 columns. Okay? But this is not the only way to initialize a 2D array. There are also other ways. Since a 2D array is actually a contiguous piece within the memory, we can also directly initializing it with a single initializer list. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But since we have already defined the data type as a two-dimensional array, it will automatically convert into this form. Okay. So let's see how two-dimensional array works with function. We are going to define a print function for our array, so that we can print out the content of the array. Here, print 2D array, constant in array. This is the array variable we are going to intake here. Okay, and then it is an integer array, so we add integer here. So why are we adding this constant keyword here? This constant keyword means that we are going to it means that we cannot modify this array within this function. Remember that array is always passed by value, so always passed by reference. So we can easily accidentally modify the content of array within the function. To prevent that, we add the const keyword here, so that the content of the array cannot be modified within this function. And then same as a one-dimensional array, we are going to also need the size parameters. In this case, a two-dimensional array, we have the number of rows and then the number of columns here, also integer. Then we are going to use a nested for loop, a for loop within a for loop. The first for loop will loop through the rows, okay, the rows here, and then the second for loop here, it will loop through the columns. So I is the index for row and j is the index for column. And then for each element within the array, we will print it out to the console, okay, using this line. And then after printing out each row, we are going to go to the next line, so using this line. Okay, so this is our print 2D array function. Note that here, our array arguments here, we don't have to specify the size of the first dimension within the array, but we have to specify the size of the second dimension. If there is a third dimension, a fourth dimension, we are also going to specify the size of those dimensions within this data type declaration here. This is the syntax required by C++ static array. Later, we are going to talk about another type of array called dynamic array. And what we are talking here is static array, okay? That's all for multi-dimensional array. And then now we are going to talk about string. String is actually a special type of array within C++. It is called a character array, okay? So like here, a character array called A. It has 10 characters, and then we can assign a string to it, because string is actually a character array. But you may notice that there is only 9 characters within this string. So why are we going to have a character array of size 10? This is because in C++ string, we always have a hidden null character at the end of the string, so that that null character will also occupy a size. So the size of this character array has to be 10 to store this string. There is also another method for declaring string. That is write it explicitly as an array. Instead of using the double column here to make everything simple, we can also explicitly write it into an array. So A and B, the content of A and B are actually exactly the same, except we explicitly write it out for the character array B. Remember that double column means string, and then single column means character. So each array element here is actually a character, C++. And then for a string to be recognized that is ended by the compiler, we need a null character here, which in C++ it is typed as /0. Okay, this is the null character which indicates the end of the string. So we have now defined the two character array or two string. Let's print it out. Okay, so they should be exactly the same. At last, we return 0 to indicate that the program ends without any problem. Let's have a look. Oh, I should have added some more code to show out the here. Okay, so everything's go correctly. Here, X and Y, we use the two different methods to define two arrays, but their content are exactly the same. As you can see here, the 3, 4 here correspond to these two cout here. And then we have our character array A and B. They are both string, although they are defined in a different way, but they are actually exactly the same. So when we see out A and B, it goes here. Okay, so that's all for today.